What's up, guys? Chris Hayes, I'm Dylan Scotia. We hiked up here in Los Angeles, and we're just continuing some of our chats. Feel free to chime in. But we usually was it last week? A couple weeks ago, we talked about parasite removal and how the parasites within you reflect the parasites on the outside and stuff. And then Chris had an amazing experience this past week that he wanted to share with you guys.
Yeah, it was hilarious that we were just talking about that, and I just went through it again myself, not even connecting the two. I was just kind of ending up a 40-day, basically abstaining from caffeine and weed challenge, test of will, whatever you want to call it. And so I was having trouble the last few days, so I was like, okay, I'm going to give myself, I'd usually been good on making all my own food, whatever. I'm going to buy myself a pastry from the store or whatever, and then I'm going to buy myself a meal from the store, and then that turned into, just more and more bad decisions. And then when I got back on the caffeine and the marijuana, then it's just like every bad decision I've ever made started compounding, and I was living in that. It was hilarious. I was just one moment talking about how bad it was, and it's funny, it's like, but I really did feel how much different my state of consciousness was from, just 1 week earlier. It's like I became a different person. I became totally disconnected from myself, and felt myself like I could definitely fall into this pattern and be there for life.
Yeah.
And that knowing as much, and I've gone through as much as I've gone through, and if it's tough for me, I don't see how anyone can make it without any previous knowledge of what's on the other side of that, and how much it does disconnect them from themselves, and how much it does just
keep in mind, Chris has like real willpower. He runs like 100-mile races in a day, 4 marathons. Like, he's not like a weak-minded individual. He's about as healthy as you can get in terms of endurance.
Yeah, healthy, or
he's not going to toot his own horn, but I figure I'd tell you.
It's like whenever you set your mind on something and decide to do it, sometimes you give up other things, and sometimes you give yourself other things that you would never have considered before. And then now it's those things that you've never had to say no to before, or haven't in a long time. Now you have to say no to those, 3 or 4 times an hour, especially when you have those foods available to you at no
it's
cost.
like they're all there, just like, eat me, eat me.
And they look good and they taste good, and it's so simple, but then honestly you do feel terrible afterwards, morally and physically. Because some people, you do let it get to you, and especially the more you know about it, it just makes it that much worse, I think.
Yeah, it's like your conscience starts eating away at you because you caved in. But I think what I've noticed when I see, like, especially in like the vegan community and all that stuff, and I think what happens is everybody's so busy judging each other. I think it's an egotistical thing rather than supporting each other and like being compassionate that, like, yes, I'm a meat junkie, and literally me around meat and those types of foods, you literally have to treat me like a heroin addict around heroin. And that's actually why I stopped eating. That's why I've been vegan, is because when I literally was listening to myself talk about why I couldn't, I sounded like an addict. And for me, my transition came when I started getting into the occult and learning more about the laws of nature and the spiritual algorithms in effect here. That's what I kind of chose that lifestyle after seeing what sorcerers do and what magicians do, and how certain people in power behave, and they don't tell people what their secrets are, but they trick everybody else to live a way of life that's like completely opposite to what they're doing in private.
You realize how powerful that magic is, to be able to get people just to do it and pay for it and keep doing it and stay in that mode. It's a tough escape.
The only time I ever throw that in someone's face is when they're coming at me telling me the difference between a right and wrong, while their intestines are lined with the carcasses of dead beings. That's the only time I'll light somebody up verbally, is when they're coming after me. But other than that, you know, it's one of those things, like, we all fall off the wagon.
Yeah.
You know, it's
And
like,
it's hard for me to see, knowing how disconnected I was from myself over just a course of a week. It's hard for me to believe that someone eating that way over the course of a lifetime, and you can tell that they're separated from themselves. I mean, how can they be fully aware of themselves?
you can't. That's the whole point of all the myths. When you look at, why are the food pyramids all propaganda? Why is everything so wrong? Why is everybody getting so sick? Well, that is deception, and a lot of people have a hard time coming to terms with all the lies that have been perpetuated on humanity, because they are ignorant and they want to stay in their safe little corners, and they don't want to live in a world where people could be that wicked or that spiritually cunning. But we do, guys, and at some point you got to just start calling spades a spades, because the beautiful thing is once you understand it, you can transmute it and realize that, oh, all that bad stuff, it's not like anybody's really doing anything to us. We're doing it to ourselves through our behavior that's based on erroneous information. And once you can dispel that, like, my favorite thing is when people are like, well, you need protein, and meat's the only thing that you're going to get all the amino acids, and lie after lie after lie. And it's like, there are people who have been vegan for decades and decades and decades. They are like in their late 70s and they look like they're still in their 40s. I mean, it's just been dispelled over and over again. I mean, I'm skinny because I don't fucking work out. I don't eat enough protein. I don't do anything because I spend all my time researching and writing. But one of my best friends is like 220, 6'2", and he's fucking jacked, and he's been vegan for 20 years. You know, it's just, you gotta just start looking into experimenting. That's what we were talking on our way over here, and I think it's worth talking about. Experiment with the laws of nature on yourself. Nobody's gonna punish you. There's nothing gonna condemn you, all but yourself. And the only thing you have to lose is not gaining knowledge through experience. And that's the reality
and
that
you will
people
also gain, you know, in your will through these own experiments. You know,
you need to make mistakes. You need to experiment.
Yeah, and you need to test your will to see how far you can go and know when you need to push yourself, when you are about to break down. You know, how you can improve, because we don't need near as much as we do. You know, our stomach will start grumbling for a second, but we don't need that.
Yeah.
But also, what I was thinking about a lot lately is, you know, living with hunger, living with desire, because that's been my problem recently. It's like, now, I used to, you know, it was never even questioned, do I want these things? Now it's, yes, of course I want these things. Can I have one now? You know, and it's like, I always want it. And I'm always hungry for it. There's always a hole that I want to fill. But I have to learn to live with that and use my willpower, you know.
And we're also lucky that we, like, you know, I understand how difficult it is in other parts of, we live in Los Angeles, so we have all the farmers markets. We have so many vegan restaurants, like Veggie Grill. There's all these amazing places that they know how to make fucking vegan fried chicken.
But you still can't afford to go to those places all the time.
Yeah.
You know, you still need to put in a lot of work by yourself.
Fiscally responsible about how you do it, because that's the other thing that's really difficult in the vegan community, is all the vegan restaurants mark up the food an obnoxious amount, and they don't.
And it's easy to run to the stuff that tastes good, like the butters and the nuts. And a lot of those things, if you don't balance them out with dark greens, they will actually leach things from you. So you do have to be careful about imbalance too, because again, those cravings are never going to go away, so you're going to want to quench them somehow.
Yeah,
you know?
and you just got to learn about things like quinoa and spelt and all these other alternatives, because I think the reason people fail when they try to change their diet up is they go to the most convenient, easy thing to make for them, what they know, and it's usually like rices. And the problem with rices is they're man-made, and it's like you might as well be eating plastic. And you know, or like pastas, you know, it's like, well, I'm vegan, but I just eat 10 pounds of pasta every week, and that converts to sugar in your diet. You know, I'm Italian, so it's like I'm like the king of pasta. If you let me eat pasta, I eat it all the time. But
Yeah,
you
the
just gotta
cheeses
learn.
are tough to go without too.
The one thing that helps is like fruits and also a juicer. That's one of the best things you can do because your teeth are natural juicers. So I know people say you need to eat the whole fruit because it gets you fiber. Yeah, absolutely. I'm not going to disagree with any of that. However, just the ability, if you're like me and you don't like, I hate vegetables 90% of the time. I mean, there's certain ways I can get them when they're like freshly picked and I'm like, oh, this is delicious. But most of the time I don't like vegetables. But when you go to a farmer's market and it's been picked within 24 hours, it's still alive, you can then juice that. You can make all kinds of good combinations like celery, tomatoes, stuff that like literally naturally cures diabetes, lime. You can literally make all kinds of drinks and it doesn't take that long. And you juice it, and if you don't really like it, you can just fucking pound it like a shot. And you're getting all those liquid nutrients that your body's absorbing right away. And your body does absorb it right away once you've been on this sort of diet for a few years because you're not clogged. You have to do cleanses. You have to get that shit out of your intestines for your body to start absorbing things fast. And then you don't have to eat 3 meals a day like a fat ass.
Yeah.
You know?
But it's not an easy road.
No,
for
it's
anybody.
not. And you have, and that's the other thing is that's why we have, like, if you're on that path, try not to spread the hatred. Try to see where people are in their own path. That way you can have compassion because you remember where you were on that path. And that's, you know, it's really amazing how your body changes. You can't just give it up cold turkey. It's almost impossible. You can. It's just going to be a lot more challenging. But if you give yourself that permission to like just slowly wean yourself off, maybe eat meat or dairy like once or twice a week rather than 4 or 5 times a week. You know, it's just a little process. And as your body changes, you won't crave because the bacteria in your system won't be craving all that stuff like it is now because there won't be as many of those bad bacteria. And your body kind of naturally transitions. So we talked about falling off the wagon. Anybody else got something to say? Feel free to contribute. We'll keep it to about 15 minutes.
Yeah.
And
that's probably about good.
is that where we're at? We're
I
at 2
think I
minutes.
started it.
Oh,
Yeah, I did.
yeah. Well, we'll wrap it up at that then. And unless anyone has something to say, we'll see you on the flip side.
All right, thanks.
See you guys.
Ooh. Starting to feel